Hey folks, Segasonicfan here, and I'm going to be talking about a mod I came up with a while back to add a light phaser to a Sega Game Gear. I got a request from the SMS Power Forums from somebody on how to do this mod, and since I made my video back in 2015, other people, notably one other YouTube person, has made a video describing the mod and getting a lot of hits for it, but giving me no credit or the person that developed the ROM patches, Calindro. So that's not cool, guys. If you want to make a video using some of the modding work I've done, that's totally cool. Just give me credit. Give people credit that did the work to come up with the stuff. That would be nice. And this mod was a joint effort from people at the SMS Power Forums. It was first of all made possible by the dumping of the original schematics from the Sega Game Gear, thanks to a fundraising effort by people on Sega 16 forums, and notably user OMP, who did the scanning and uploading of these documents. I believe it was OMP that did the Game Gear ones, but feel free to correct me if he did not. Very grateful to OMP and that community for getting these service manual documents with all the data sheets and schematics for vintage Sega systems. It was very, very awesome stuff. And so once we got these schematics, these full service manuals, we were able to peek inside the hardware and really check some stuff out. And I started looking for a way to add a light phaser to the input jack. You know, just drill in your own input jack like I did on this Game Gear here. You do something like this and hopefully plug in a light phaser. Well, there's a problem, folks. So if you look here, you'll see in this schematic there is a player start, right, left, up, down, and then the two buttons there. But there's no TH signal. So you only have button 1, button 2, up, down, left, right, and start. Well, the TH signal is very necessary because that's how it detects the pulse. I believe it's a feedback pulse for the light gun. And it's also used, it changes to a binary to be used for the paddle controller as well. Without that TH line, which is pin 7 on a normal Master System jack controller plug, you cannot have light phaser or paddle support or sports pad support on a Sega Game Gear Player 1. Not unless you build, you know, a whole other complex circuit. So that was a bummer. But when I looked over here, I noticed that there are a set of pins going to the extension port here. And you'll see we have PC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and PC 0. PC 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's what's interesting, though, is I know that this extension port actually works with a Player 2 Master System controller because the Master Gear controller cable, which has been around for a number of years, well over a decade, is an add-on that you can get, which plugs into the Game Gear expansion port up at the top here and gives you a plug just like that. And it doesn't have any circuitry inside, so I know that this output for the extension port supports a Master System controller. And if it supports a Master System controller, then all it needs is 6 pins to do that, with 5 volts and ground, of course. However, our mysterious 7th signal is present, and here I've put an arrow to it. And here it's labeled PC6. What's nice about this is it's actually labeled in the pinout of a Master System controller. Pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then 10, of course, is not connected. But we do have this PC6. Well, it turns out if you wire that PC6 to a Master System controller, along with the other signals, then you will have a working light phaser. I've posted a video about this way long ago. It's a really crappy video, but it does show a light phaser working on a Sega Game Gear. And in fact, that might be the world's first light phaser ever working on a Sega Game Gear. And I shared it all with you on YouTube. So it wasn't very exciting. It's not a very polished video, but it is there. It is proof of working concept. So what do you do if you want to do this yourself? Well, first of all, I would not recommend using a master gear converter cable. It's a bit cumbersome and it doesn't work unless you build an additional adapter. The reason why it does not work, by the way, is the master gear extension cable, which, by the way, some of those might be expensive now, does not have a pin for VCC, for the power supply. The reason for that is Master System controllers don't normally need power. They're actually kind of a dumb controller with just buttons going to ground. There's no actual logic IC inside of them unless you have the add-ons like the light phaser or the paddle. So that signal is missing, and the only way to get it is to build an adapter and give it 5 volts. The person that copied my work and Calindro's work and made a video about this and got a bunch of hits failed to mention that, and I guess recommends a sort of weird adapter to add on to that, which, you know, you could do if you want, but I think is silly. So the way that I recommend doing this is, one, just put in your own controller port. Not terribly hard to do. And then just wire up the controller signals to your EXT plug. And the only difference is you make pin 7, which is the TH pin on your plug here, which would normally not be connected. You make sure that that is connected to PC6. PC6, as you can see here, goes to the EMI filter, EM7, and then goes on to your EXT jack. So what that looks like if you're trying to do this yourself is, by the way, this is my Unigen board with the EasyGen add-on that lets you install this is actually to make a Sega Genesis controller work with the Game Gear. Not for this mod right now. But how this looks is, you'll notice on here, PC6 is pin 78 and the EMI filter is EM7. So we just look at our board. Pin 78 on a 100 QFP package, which is what this is. This is the 315-5378 CPU, as you can see. Or it's not a CPU, it's an ASIC technically. It's a amalgamation of different functions. It's this pin right here going to this via. Third from the top is pin 78. And that goes to this very last EMI filter right here, pin 7. And you would take it from this pin right here. This is after the filter, and you'll see the trace there going to the jack. So that's it, folks. You solder a wire, one wire right here, send that to your pin 7 on your controller plug, and then of course you do have to wire the other buttons and stuff. And you can pull those very easily. Over here you'll see I actually usually pull them right from the capacitor. So this capacitor right here, this would be button 1, capacitor over here, that side would be button 2. I'm sorry, I'm showing you the wrong. This is the ground side because these are actually ground. So it would actually be the other side of the capacitor right here. And that's it. Same thing goes for your directional buttons. You have these 4 capacitors here. One side of each capacitor is going to go to ground. So you just measure that and go, okay, that's ground, that's ground, that's ground. And then you find the ones that aren't. I do have this documented in my notes, but there's, I believe it's up, left, right, down, something like that. I might get the order mixed up, but it's not hard to test. You just press down here and put your leads on there and see which one, which direction it's in. Alternatively, you can look at the schematics and, find out that way. In fact, we could find out that way right now because it's labeled right here. So up is, it's a little messy, C24. So we already know that. That's C24. That's up, down is C25. That one's pretty obvious. It's the lowest one down here. That's C25. And left is C26. So indeed I was right. This one, C26. So you'll see that part goes to the ground plane. So the signal is going to be right here. And then this is right. So down, left, right, up. So you grab those signals. You grab your button 1 and 2 from capacitor C26. And my light source isn't good enough to see that capacitor. C29. and then you grab your final, you got to grab your 5 volts and your ground, of course. Now, if you want to do this in accordance with the external plug here, this is actually where you would grab the ground at the end of this inductor. Because if we look at our schematic here, it goes through an inductor, ground. You know, if you want to do this like extra safe. And then lastly, you would grab your 5 volt source from, again, the EMI filter here. It would be EMI 5, as you can see right here, goes to +5. And this is if you just want to be extra safe. You could grab power anywhere, but just showing you guys, EMI 5 is this guy right here. So this trace right here, that's where you would grab. You would solder a wire there for 5 volts. Now, of course, you could solder 5 volts almost anywhere. You could actually grab it even from right here. But that way you have the EMI protection, and it's going to the actual output, which is essentially what you'd be wiring in. So it's more stock, as it were. And that's it. You wire in your plug that way, and you will have a working light phaser. Hopefully this has been helpful for y'all. And oh, before I forget, to make this all work, you are going to need a flash cart. I do sell these nice printed labels for your EverDrive GG, by the way, in my shop. You can find it on my website, which will be linked below and is linked all over my YouTube videos and stuff. Yeah, get yourself an EverDrive GG, and then I'll try to link the thread to the reprogrammed ROMs that Calindro very generously reprogrammed for this modification. The reason you need to do that is because the ROMs are made for a first player light gun, of course, and we're only going to be using the external port, which is player 2. And so the ROMs have to be reprogrammed to function that way. There's a couple games. I think Ghost House won't work because it requires both a controller and a light phaser, which, by the way, is totally cool. But I don't think it would work yet with this mod because you only have one... Actually, no, I guess it could. If you plugged in a controller, you'd have to make another port to plug in a first-player controller or use the Game Gear. And no, it'd have to be reprogrammed, I think, though, because I think the controller's on player 2 and the light phaser is supposed to be player 1. Yeah. So maybe we can get somebody to reprogram that ROM one of these days. And then, of course, you can't do 2-player light gun games like Gangster Town. Again, because we only have one port for the light phaser. No TH pin for this chip yet. Not unless you build the circuit that Netto designed, which is amazing, and I'm going to try to make a circuit board of. I'm going to try to do a design of that later. Anyway, that's a mouthful. In short, recap. One wire, all you need is the TH wire. That's the main thing you need to make this work. It is pin 78, which is right here, which connects to the EMI filter right here. The EMI filter outputs here, which is where you should grab the signal. Also, you might as well grab your ground signal from the output of the ground to the external jack as well. And if you want to be extra safe, the third EMI filter from the right is EMI 5, which is where the 5 volt signal comes. This is a 2 ASIC Game Gear, VA0. The EMI filter arrangement might be slightly different in your Game Gear, but unlikely. I think they're probably all going to be the same. So if you get the wrong wire, you get the wrong EMI filter or whatever, you're not going to damage anything. I think only the 5 volt one would actually maybe damage something. Wouldn't worry about it. So even if you get the wrong one and you have to, you know, search around a bit, you're not going to damage anything. But like I said, pretty sure it's the same across all models. And you just want to get that EMI 7. The pin here that it goes to is going to change if you don't have a 2 ASIC Game Gear. But because the external plug is the same in all the Game Gears, you know, for link cable support, you are going to have, you should definitely have that EMI 7 and that signal going to EMI 7. Which, if you want to be extra thorough and you don't know which EMI filter it is, you could always just do it by the pinout that is here, which is pin 7 as well. So pin 7 on the external jack, you could always just check where that goes if you want to be extra thorough. Okay, folks. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, just repeating myself here. Hopefully this helps, and you guys are able to make a light phaser compatible Sega Game Gear for those that want to. And yeah, have fun hacking your Game Gear, folks. Give credit when you make videos. Thanks to OMP for dumping schematics, and also thanks to GameSX.com for hosting them all these years, as well as Sega 16. And keep retro gaming alive. This is Segasonicfan, signing out.